The first time I met her, she was pointing a plasma rifle at my face. To be fair, I had just crashed a stolen mining shuttle into the side of an alien frigate. The alarms were still echoing through the corridor when the hatch hissed open and she appeared, tall, silver-skinned, eyes like molten glass. Every inch of her armor looked like it belonged in a museum rather than a war zone, ornate and glowing with blue veins of power. "Identify yourself," she barked in accented standard. I raised my hands, trying not to look like a threat.
"Hi.
Name's Connor. Professional idiot. Amateur shuttle pilot." For a moment, I thought she'd shoot me just for the joke. But instead, her lip twitched, the tiniest hint of a smile. "You are trespassing aboard the Veskar flagship Talrin." "Yeah, about that," I said. "Your ship was kind of in my flight path." She blinked. Then, against all logic, she laughed. That was the moment I decided I liked her. Her name was Serin Val'Kara, commander of the Veskar Honor Guard, daughter of one of their high chancellors, and a living legend among her people. And somehow, for reasons I still can't explain, she didn't throw me in a brig or vaporize me. Instead, she let me work off my debt, repairing the very ship I dented. I was a decent engineer before the Terran colonies fell apart, so she put me in the repair bays under her watch. Days became weeks, and soon, Serin and I were sharing stories across alien circuits and spare parts. She told me about the Veskar, a proud, warrior-based species bound by honor and oath. Every promise, every declaration, carried spiritual weight among them. Even casual words had meaning. I, of course, had no idea how seriously they took it. That ignorance would come back to bite me, or rather, bind me for life. Middle. It happened on the 43rd day aboard Talrin. We were repairing a damaged section of hull together, working in our suits just outside the airlock. The black of space stretched endlessly around us, and Serin was humming a strange melody over the comms. "What's that song?" I asked. "It is an old Veskar oath song," she replied softly. "One sung during bonding ceremonies. 2 warriors pledging their lives together." "Like a wedding?" I said. She hesitated. "A human term for a similar ritual, yes." I chuckled. "So, if I asked you to marry me, would you make me sing that song?" Silence. "Serin?" I asked. Her voice came through, low and measured. "Connor, do not speak such things lightly. Among my people, such words are binding." I grinned inside my helmet. "I'm joking, Commander. You'd have to be crazy to marry a human like me." Still no reply. Only her quiet breathing and the hum of her suit systems. When we finished the repairs, she excused herself abruptly. I thought I'd just made her uncomfortable, which, to be honest, I probably had. But that night, when I returned to my assigned quarters, the door slid open to reveal Serin standing there in full ceremonial armor, flanked by 2 Veskar elders. "Connor Hayes of Terra," one elder intoned. "You have spoken the binding words. Do you acknowledge them before witnesses?" I blinked. "The what now?" Serin's eyes met mine. She looked both terrified and hopeful. "The binding words," she whispered. "You asked me to marry you." "Oh no," I muttered. "Oh hell." They took my silence as consent. Before I could explain that on Earth we joke about that sort of thing, the elders began chanting. The chamber lights dimmed, the air filled with energy, and I realized, too late, that this was actually happening. A glowing sigil formed in the air between us, pulsing with golden light. Serin stepped forward and placed her palm against it. I watched, stunned, as the mark mirrored itself on my hand, burning a symbol into my skin that shimmered faintly. "The bond is made," the elder said solemnly. "By word and flame, the oath is sealed." I just stood there, staring at my hand. "You're kidding, right?" Serin looked at me, voice trembling. No, Connor. You are my chosen. For the next few days, I tried everything to explain the misunderstanding. Humans say things like that all the time. I protested. We joke, we flirt, it doesn't mean anything. But to the Veskar, words were reality. Speaking something aloud made it truth. Undoing it was not only dishonorable, it was impossible without invoking ancient rites that could literally kill the participants. So, as far as the Veskar were concerned, I was now married to Serin Val'Kara, heir of the House Val'Kara, and future commander of their entire fleet. And the strangest part? The longer it went on, the less I wanted to undo it. Development. Once the initial shock faded, Serin began treating me differently. Not as a prisoner or even a guest, but as her equal. She took me to strategy briefings, invited me to sparring sessions, and introduced me to her closest soldiers as my bonded. The looks I got from them ranged from disbelief to outright fury. To them, I was an outsider, a fragile human who had no place among their kind, and now I'd somehow tied myself to one of their most revered leaders. It all came to a head during a council meeting. One of the Veskar generals, a brute named Koresh, stood up and slammed his fist on the table. "This is blasphemy," he roared. "Our commander bonded with a Terran scavenger?" Serin's expression turned to ice. "Choose your next words carefully, General." He sneered. "He dishonors you by existing in that seat. He should be purged." I stood before I even realized I was doing it. "Funny," I said. I didn't realize bigotry was still fashionable in the galaxy. Koresh's eyes flared. He lunged, faster than I could react, but Serin was faster. Her blade flashed, intercepting his strike with a burst of energy that threw sparks across the chamber. "Enough," she commanded. Everyone froze. She turned slowly to the council. "This human bears my oath mark. Insult him, and you insult me." Koresh dropped his gaze, growling. And just like that, no one questioned us again. That night, alone in her quarters, I finally asked her, "Why didn't you just deny it? Tell them it was a misunderstanding." She looked away, her voice barely audible. "Because I did not want to." I blinked. "What?" Her eyes met mine, molten, sincere, trembling. "I have fought for decades, Connor. I have seen my people die for duty, for war, for promises that mean nothing. But when you spoke those words, even in jest, I felt something I have not felt in years. Hope." For once, I didn't have a joke ready. Instead, I reached out and took her hand. The mark between us pulsed faintly, as if alive. Maybe this wasn't such a mistake after all. Climax. Our bond was tested sooner than either of us expected. The Veskar fleet came under attack from a rival faction known as the Conir, merciless raiders who sought to steal the Veskar's war tech. Their ships surrounded us, and Serin was ordered to lead the defense. When she stepped into the command deck, she wore her full ceremonial armor, the same one she'd worn during the binding. The soldiers bowed as she entered, but then something strange happened. As I followed her onto the deck, every Veskar in the room suddenly went silent. Then one by one, they bowed to me. Confused, I looked at Serin. She smiled faintly. "The bond mark links us. They see you as my equal, my bonded commander." "Wait, so they actually—" "Yes," she interrupted. "They will follow your orders as they follow mine." I swallowed hard. No pressure. The battle was brutal. I worked beside her, rerouting shield frequencies, using human intuition to predict the Conir's next moves. Where her people relied on rigid protocol, I relied on improvisation, a trick humanity had mastered long before spaceflight. When the enemy flagship moved in for the kill, I suggested something reckless, dropping the Veskar shields temporarily to overload the enemy's power grid through a feedback pulse. Every officer protested, but Serin only said, "If he believes, I believe." We executed the plan. The blast of energy nearly tore the ship apart, but when the light faded, the Khanir armada was in ruins. The Veskar fleet erupted in cheers. Serin turned to me, eyes glowing with pride. "You see, my bonded? Together, we are stronger." And before I could respond, she kissed me, in front of the entire command deck. The soldiers roared in approval, pounding their fists on the floor. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just the human joke, I was part of something greater. Ending. After the battle, the Veskar High Council convened once more. They declared our bond divinely sanctioned and offered humanity, what was left of it, a seat among their allied species. I never imagined a dumb joke could end up changing interstellar politics, but somehow here we were. Serin and I stood on the observation deck afterward, watching the stars drift past. "You know," I said, "on Earth, marriage is usually preceded by a long courtship. Dates, awkward dinners, arguing over what movie to watch." She smiled, leaning against me. "I believe we have done all those things in our own way." I chuckled. "You really want to stay bonded to a sarcastic human forever?" Her eyes softened. "Forever is a small price to pay for finding someone who still makes me laugh after war and chaos." The mark on our hands glowed faintly again, sinking in rhythm. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I said quietly, "Guess I should be careful with what I joke about from now on." Serin smirked. "Perhaps. But I rather enjoy your human humor, husband." I froze. "You had to say that out loud, didn't you?" Her laughter echoed through the chamber, melodic and bright. And as the stars stretched before us, I realized something beautiful. Sometimes, even the dumbest words can become destiny.